Yes, welcome everyone at the first Flutter Meetup here at Aaltra. My name is Johanna, and together with my colleague Stefanie, we're going to be unveiling our highlights of Fluttercon Berlin. First of all, I'm a mobile and front-end developer, mainly focused on Android and Flutter. And Stefanie is a full-stack developer, but doesn't yet work in Flutter, but that will be for the near future. She's already planning in hackathons to learn Flutter, so I'm very happy that she wants to learn it. These are the colleagues that went with us to Fluttercon. I want to say a big thank you for encouraging us to do this talk, because we don't really like doing this. I just wanted to know who else here went to Fluttercon. It's a lot of people. But first up, we're going to talk about Fluttercon itself. It all started out with DroidCon. DroidCon is an Android conference that has been held since 2009. So each year there's a conference in Berlin and I think in London as well. And the last few years there were more and more Flutter talks on DroidCon. So they thought maybe we should introduce a full conference dedicated to Flutter. So this year was the first Fluttercon conference that was held. It was organized in 2 floors. So the lower level was purely DroidCon, with one main room also where the big Flutter talks were held. And there were also a lot of companies that gave out a lot of cool goodies. We still have some socks left if anyone wants some. And the upper level had 4 rooms where there were Flutter talks, and I think there were 90 talks in total about Flutter. We also obviously used the Flutter app to navigate between the different talks, so we could see what we wanted to follow. And each of us just went to the talks that we were interested in. So we didn't see everything because there was too much to follow. But we decided to divide our favorites into 4 topics. So we have the design, development, security, and tools. For each part, we also added the title of the talk that was given and the speaker who gave it. Later on, you will be able to watch all talks if you missed them or if you didn't go to Fluttercon, but they will be available on the DroidCon website. They're not yet available, we checked, but for the ones that are interested. I'm going to start with design. At Aaltra, we're really trying to improve our developer handoffs. I don't know if everyone knows what a developer handoff is. It's when the design is ready and the designer gives the design to the developers to start implementing it. But it has to be finished. The problem we sometimes encounter is that the design is not completely clear to us, because the designer is sometimes already designing new features and we need to implement a feature that was made before that, but the design file is all over the place. So we're like, do we have to implement this already? Or do we have to implement this already? So it's not always very clear. Another thing that I noticed sometimes is that there are new colors suddenly in the design, new fonts. And then each time we have to ask the designer, is this normal? Oh no, I made a mistake. So yeah, it's a hassle. Thankfully, Figma came with an interesting update a couple of weeks ago. They brought the variables to the designers. They didn't know that yet. So the point is that the designer already creates the variables. So he creates the different style items like colors, texts, and spacing. He already gives them decent names. So when the developer handoff happens, the developer just needs to take the same names. So there's no confusion, and the developer handoff goes way smoother. There are less mistakes at the developer side as well. Another nice part about the update is that it's now easier to switch between light and dark mode. It's also easier to switch between languages, because it doesn't always look the same if you're working in a different language. Say like Russian or something, it's like way longer, and you need to make sure that your design takes that into account. Also, a nice update that we really need is that the designer can now select a couple of pages and say, they can highlight it and say, this is ready for development. So this will fix our problem that we don't know which parts we already have to implement and which not. I'm wondering if any one of you already uses these updates, because it's still in beta version, but you do? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, at Aaltra we use a lot of Sketch and Sketch Cloud, but recently we started working with Figma, so I think this is really the step we need to take. Something else we also noticed is that sometimes the designer gets forgotten during the development process. Like we try to include them in our developer sprint meetings, so that they can see what our progress is during the development phase. But sometimes they only see the product at the end. And if they then see something that they don't like, it's too late. But what we try to do is we make a demo page when we are developing a new app, where we put all our new widgets on it, so they can easily test them out, and if it's not what they want, they can just tell us. So a tool that could fix our problem is Widget Book. It's a Flutter package for cataloging your widgets. It's easy to test your widgets, to test on different devices, and also the themes, again, same as in Figma, to switch between light and dark mode. But big plus is you can share it with your designer, but you can also share it with your clients. The designer can then review your widgets that you created, and he can add comments to it, so you can see, like, the designer saw some minor difference between the design and your implementation, and he can just add a comment, oh, you need to change this, and then it's easier to communicate, because we're not always at the same place, a lot of work from home people. So the thing I was most impressed about was that you are able to put your design on top of your real implementation. So you can just see the two texts on top of each other, and then you see, oh, in Flutter my text is too big. It's very clear for us as developers, but also for the designer. Are there any people here that already use Widget Book? Or, nice.
But we are not using it anymore.
No?
The main reason that I think we use it for a project, a consultancy project. And I think that there is still a lot of boilerplate code that you need to write. And our theming is not synced with the material team. And if that's not the case, then you have an issue with a widget book, where you say, okay, I want to show dark modes, but the theme is not integrated with your material team, so it's not showing correctly. And I think that they still can do some extra implementation where you can add custom theming options, maybe, for saying, okay, I do this differently, but I want the same functionality.
Do you have a better solution for including the designer more during the development phase?
Not sure, but I think it's a really good tool.
Yeah.
But I think what we were thinking about was writing a annotation generator, where you can say, okay, this needs to be in widget book, and it will just generate everything for you, instead of building or writing all the code that you need for getting this UI. And the only UI that you need is saying, okay, I want to show something in widget book, and then it will generate the full file. But you still need to say, okay, I want to have text, and the text needs to be this, and the boolean needs to be this, and I think that can be generated with an annotation as well.
Yeah, because like this, it's a lot of extra work you need to do, and you need to budget.
And that was the reason why we stopped using it, because it was a consultancy project that needs to be there in, I think, 3 weeks or something, and the customer also wanted to have some design feedback on the things we did. So we said, okay, perfect, widget book is the way to go. And then they said, no, we need features instead of widget book widgets. So.
Okay, thanks for the info.
We
Yeah,
actually
know
did
that
something else, but this is pre-widget book. I don't think I would recommend doing it, but we built our own tool, which basically wraps our app, and it reads the widgets and automatically indexes them, and then creates a library of all of the widgets that you have. And since it's a wrapper, sort of a wrapper, it's not really a wrapper, it's sort of a wrapper around the app. It has all of the styles and all that stuff. It automatically takes them, and then you also can create like an index of all of your widgets if you want. But it's, I would say, hacky, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. But it's also a possibility if you don't want to do all the boilerplate thing that you have to do for widget book. There are also other ones that also do it. There are like two big ones.
I think Storybook.
This is based on Storybook.
So,
I
Storybook
think,
JS, but I think there is a Flutter alternative as well.
Yeah, they based it on Storybook JS as well.
Yeah. But there's also another one that I've forgotten.
Histoire.
Histoire?
Or doesn't that work with Flutter? I don't know.
Could be.
It's a Storybook family.
Yeah, could be.
Something to look around. And our next topic is development.
So Flutter is used for all kinds of projects and platforms, but now there's more. There are Chrome extensions. Arjen and I went to this talk, and Arjen saw the really big opportunity to make his own Chrome extension. He has a struggle that when he's developing, he keeps opening new tabs, and then it's like, oh my god, where is that tab? I need that tab, but he cannot find it. So he wants to make a Chrome extension that keeps him from opening new tabs, so it will limit his amount of open tabs, so he cannot open anymore. So he needs to close one first and then can open a new one. But yeah, there are lots of other possibilities. For example, this one, the first one, the counter app that everybody knows, or the middle one, which is pretty cool. It's generating a QR code really fast, so you do not have to search for it online. Or like the last one, some kind of chat application, but there is no limitation in it. Your creativity, you can do anything. Then we also went to a gaming team, because some of our developers are also gamers, so they develop by daytime and game by nightfalls. And as a developer, we all are very curious. We want to learn new things and new stuff. So that's why we all went to this talk. It might come that you're building a backend and you can use a Firebase or a REST API or maybe GraphQL. It's all good, it's all cool. But what if I can tell you can make your own backend with Dart? It's pretty cool, right? But so now I'm talking about server pods. You can make your own methods in server pods and just use it like a normal Flutter method you call. So it's pretty cool to see that a front-ender can easily see what the backend is. It works seamlessly together. It's a great world for everybody. You gain complete control over the backend application, and you always know the right set of tools you can use. The next topic is security, because who does not like that their data is secure and does not get unauthorized access by someone malicious, or gets data breached and get leaked online or sold on the black market? However, security is difficult. Not every developer is a security expert, knows everything about secure data and stuff. It's difficult, it's lots of mathematics, it's not everybody's kind of thing to do. And also, we use third-party libraries, so you do not know what's inside. So sometimes you just use it and do not know. Therefore, there are some scanning libraries. They scan your app and they say, you should not use it because it's malicious there and there. You leak data, not good. It's nice to use. But there are none for Flutter. So what do you do with a platform that's so popular that everybody wants to use it? There you have FreeRasp. It is made to show you potential malicious and dangerous behavior, including some tampering of your code, injecting some stuff that's not legal, or reverse engineer your app to get some tokens out of it. The runtime analysis protection is also part of it. And installing your apps through unsecure ways can also be a method to steal data from people. The nice part of FreeRasp is also that you can have threat alerts. So when something is going wrong, some app is got from somewhere else in the Play Store or something, it will alert you. And also it will give you a weekly report by email of things that could go wrong or things that could be dangerous. FreeRasp is also really nice to use because it not only works on Flutter, it also works on React Native and native iOS and Android. So there is no excuse for security. This is a list of some hacking tools. So if you want to be a bit malicious, here is your time to take a picture. Our next Our next and last topic is tools.
Yes. First of all, I'm wondering who here has already had to publish an app to the App Store or the Google Play Store. So you all know the pain of taking screenshots for every screen size for both Android and iOS. Here at Aaltra, we also develop a lot of apps, so we always have to take screenshots for all the screens. But I'm wondering, how do you guys take your screenshots? Do you do it manually? Do you have a script or something to take screenshots? Manually?
Our designer does it.
That's also a good solution. Yeah, we do it manually.
He doesn't complain a lot. I think we, for us indeed, the designer usually do the screenshots, but we are not using screenshots from mobile application because we have some wrappers around where you have a beautiful screenshot in the App Store. So that's the reason why we say we can do it, so you have to do it.
I think we all know it's very time consuming. Doesn't matter who does it, the designer or the developer, it's very time consuming. But it turns out there's a faster way. The solution is integration testing. There was a talk that showed us that you can just add some extra code into your integration test, and while it's running, it tests your app, but it also takes screenshots of all the screens that you pass while running your test. They also showed that you can then automatically upload them to the Play Store and to the App Store, but she didn't recommend it. I think it's also safer to do it manually. So when you run your integration tests, all the screenshots are placed in a folder on your computer, and you can just all put them on the App Store and Play Store, and it's way easier. I think this talk will be very interesting to look up, so you know where to find the code for this. Yeah, and you can also run your tests for different screen sizes, because you always need for Android, you always need for a phone and for a tablet. Next up is the Patrol test library. I'm not going to lie, I've never written integration tests for Flutter, but I think this library might help me take that step. It's a package extension on the Flutter test and integration test libraries that already exists. So because it's an extension, you can still use all the original functionality of those other two packages. But the big added value is that they made it possible to test the native functionality. Here at Aaltra, we're very busy with IoT, and we do a lot of things with Bluetooth and stuff. So every time we have to ask the user to give permission to use Bluetooth, for example, we can't test that. with the normal test library. So this could be a real great solution for that, but first we need to write tests, of course. It's also easier readable, so even someone with less developer skills can also write those tests. And the last tool I'm going to talk about is Code Push. One of the founders of Flutter actually gave this talk. He left Flutter, but not to stop working on Flutter. He just wanted to make Flutter better, but with his own things that he wanted for Flutter, like the first amazing feature that he launched, Code Push. I have an example with this. We have, I don't know if you've seen the Spectre bike here. We'll show it after the talks. We have a Flutter app for that as well, to connect to the bike. And last week we needed to do an update to the app, because we recently made, both we're the Spectre team as well, we made an update to the app with the Spotify integration. So now you can see your Spotify, what is playing right now on your bike as well. But we needed to link the account to another Spotify account. So we needed to change just the client ID and client secret. That was the only change. But to give that change to the client, we needed to make new builds for both Android and iOS, put them in review for both Android and iOS, and then wait for the reviewing, because that's also a real pain to wait for the app reviewing time. So to make this process, to shorten this process, we could use Code Push. Code Push is a cloud service that allows developers to push app updates directly to the users. This means that we could skip the whole reviewing process. That's all shorebird. They do that for you. So you just have to implement it into your code. It's a feature that we will definitely use. And last but not least, we wanted to know who here already worked with Flutter before. Raise your hands. We were wondering if any of you had some tips or tricks for us, or if you saw anything at a different talk that we didn't see, that you really want to share with us, like the shaders. But we heard about it from Peter. He was very enthusiastic about it as well. But we're wondering if there are any other things that you saw on Fluttercon, or any other tips or tricks that you have. Yes?
Yeah, there was a really good talk, I think it was the first day, about the Renderbox, which is you call it the API underneath, like widgets. It's like one level deeper before you go like to custom paint. And that was if they actually upload the talks, I would highly recommend watching that talk, because like the guy made a point saying like a lot of people stay away from Renderbox because it feels complex and it's not as easy as just widgets, and I don't necessarily agree that Renderbox is more complex, but the way that he looked at widgets and then decided like, oh, this could be done with Renderbox was super interesting. Like he picked out some examples from not literal UI examples that I've built in the past, but similar things that I've done that I solved with, for example, a stack or something like that, where I thought like, ooh, that could have been Renderbox, and I didn't really consider that it could have been Renderbox. So the way that he like considered these things, I thought was really interesting. So I would highly recommend if they upload to watch that.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Something to share with us as well?
Did someone go to a workshop maybe? Here? No?
I went to the flame workshop, but it wasn't very well organized. I think the problem was they didn't give you instructions. They went through all the stuff with the whole group, which took a very long time. So I kind of checked out and did something else. But I also went to the design system workshop. Went to Finnish guys from, I think, Go to Rebels, I think is the company's name. Where the workshop also wasn't very well organized, but their explanation about using design tokens was very interesting. I think actually Jens, your talk also touched on that. Yeah, but I didn't talk unfortunately. But Yeah, it was interesting that it used a variable system in Figma yet. They used Token Studio and plugin for Figma. But yeah, it's something that we're looking at as well in our team in the pocket to set up tokens and sync them with the code and optimize the developer handover.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we didn't talk about all the talks we went to. Like for example, I also went to one about animations and how they showed us how easy it's actually to make simple animations, and you don't need to use Lottie, you could just use the standard slider animations and shader animations, I think. Then another one, I think the last day about app monetization. If you want to make your own app, it was also interesting. So, yes.
I also went, I think it was with you, Johanna, to remote config
Yes.
Firebase. A really interesting talk. It's from it's one of the big guys I have on Twitter. Apparently, Mankiris Kaspauskas on Twitter. But he put a lot of memes in it, which I like because I'm not a Flutter developer or a front-ender, but the Firebase tricks were really nice and it was really nice examples. Also like a lot of dad jokes in it. Really good.
We used AWS with S3 and then a signed JSON file before, where we had to upload a new signed JSON file to make sure we could not intercept or tamper with the JSON file as a remote config. And then we switched to Firebase. And we are never going back. Yes, because right now the clients can also update remote config flags. Before we had to update the JSON, make sure the JSON is valid. Clients are like, what is JSON?
But there was also, I think, the founder of Showbird. And the opening talk of the first day was also like a little bit inspiring because they were talking about like Flutter is new and now the possibilities, the opportunities are there for us to create
I think an important thing maybe about Showbird as well. So Showbird is free for 1,000 updates, I think. And I talked with Eric about the pricing model, and he said just use it and talk to us what you want to pay. Talk to us what your clients want to pay. We just want everyone to use Showbird, and we'll see what the pricing eventually will be. But for now, we will just make sure that you can use it, and we will see what the pricing is. If it's good for you, then it's good for us. They're set for life for funding. So yeah, they just said use it, and we'll see. Yeah, that's what he said.
How does that work? Mentioning the Flame workshop, the Flame talk from the founder of the Flame engine was really good.
Yeah,
because his setup was like, can you render 3D in Flame? Because Flame is a 2D engine, of course, and it turns out yes. The really basic 3D stuff is definitely possible, and I thought that was also a really excellent talk. It was really good.
Thanks everyone for sharing.
Maybe we should start a topic in Flutter Belgium, talk of the week.
Great.
Just after the talks.
Yep, nice.
Thank you. This is new. This is also new. A link to the presentation.
We're coming from the audience, so
Yeah.
I'm in the presentation.
Thanks. We have to make a whole new presentation. So if anyone wants to scan it, now is the time. Surprise! What's this?
I will just add the link to.
Yes, okay, it's good. Yes, thanks for listening, everyone.